Hi everybody, it is Jess and welcome back to my channel and welcome to the video where I talk about everything I read in 2021. Well, I say everything I read. This is more of a summing up of my reading year. I am not going to talk about every single book that I read last year because there are a lot of them, as we will discover in a moment. But if you do want to read about every single book that I have read in 2021, then I have my Goodreads and my Storygraph link in the description box down below, so you can go and check those out if you want. There's also my Instagram, where I do post a lot about the books that I am reading. This is not a shameless social media plug by any means. Okay, it might be a little bit, but yeah, go and check those out if you want to. But this is just my general summing up of last year, and boy, what a year. It was by far my best reading year ever. I have some questions here. I found this really good reading survey online. I'll post it down below as well if you want to have a look at it and use it for your review videos as well. I know a few booktubers have actually used this survey to wrap up their reading years with, so it's quite popular. But it just has a really great variety of questions, and I've not answered every single question on the survey just because some of the questions don't apply to any of the books that I've read, but I've answered a decent majority of them. But before I get into those questions, we're going to do a little bit of the numbers. So, how many books did I read in 2021? Well, last year I actually read a staggering 85 books, which is wild because I only wanted to read 52. That was my goal, to read 52 books, and I ended up reading 33 more, mostly because I was in lockdown for a good chunk of last year, as most of us, if not all of us, were at some point, and so I had a lot more time to read, and it was one of the things that just kept me going through those crazy times. The amount of pages that I read last year, I have the number here, it says 27,765 pages, but I feel like it could be either slightly more or slightly less, so let's say just between 26 and 30,000 pages. And my most read genre of 2021, so I read 20 thriller books and 20 YA books, so young adult, so pretty even split between those two. And then I read 18 fantasy books and 15 horror books. Some of those are like thriller and horror combined, or young adult and fantasy combined. That's just how I've just taken these stats off Storygraph, which has been very helpful actually. I really like their stats page. But yeah, thriller and young adult were the genres that I went for the most last year, which is not a surprise to me at all. I really do love myself a good thriller. I read 14 non-fiction books last year, which is pretty average. I think the year before I read about 10. I do want to continue reading non-fiction, and I do want to read more non-fiction. So the fact that I've read like 3 or 4 more books, non-fiction books than previous year, shows that I am making an effort to do that. I had 10 DNFs last year, which doesn't sound like a lot because I know there are some booktubers out there who do DNF quite a lot. That is a very new concept to me. I always used to try and struggle through a book, whether I was liking it or not. This year I was just like, fuck it. I'm going to DNF something if I'm not enjoying it. Most of the books that I DNF'd were books that I were not enjoying, but I know that there were some of them that I ended up DNFing just because of external factors or other reasons, and we will talk about those in a future video. And then lastly, my most read author of 2021 was Leigh Bardugo. I read 4 of her books. So I read all 3 books in the Grishaverse trilogy, starting from Shadow and Bone, and then I also read 6 of Crows, and then I also read 2 John Marrs books and 2 3 Matt Haig books. Yeah, I didn't really read many books from the same authors last year, and I feel like that's going to be the same this year, unless I'm like reading a series or something. So let's get on to the questions. So the first question is, best book you read in 2021. So it's very hard for me to decide what my actual best book, my all-time favourite book of last year was. So I've got two options here. I've got The Midnight Library by Matt Haig and The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Both of these books were absolutely phenomenal in very different ways. They're two very different books. This is fantasy and this is magical realism contemporary. So two very different ends of the spectrum in terms of genre, but they both did something for me at the time of reading them, and I just haven't stopped thinking about both of these books since. I actually did recently reread this one in December, and I just loved it so much the second time round as well. And yeah, so these two are like my number one top favourite books of 2021. So question 2 is a book you were excited about and thought you were going to love more but didn't. And for me that would have to be Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I love Gong. It is my all-time favourite thriller at the moment, and I was very excited to delve into this one because a lot of people were telling me that it is a really good thriller, but I was just really let down by this book. In fact, I ended up hating it by the end. I think I gave this one 2 stars. When I finished it, I just really didn't enjoy this one. It was a huge disappointment for me, unfortunately. So next is the most surprising book you read, and for me that was Split Tooth by Tanya Tagaq. And this one is surprising just because it's a genre that I don't particularly enjoy. It's magical realism, it's also literary fiction, and it's a bit of poetry and prose. It's a mix of a lot of different things, and I honestly wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it or not, but I read this book in one sitting. I think I devoured it in less than 2 hours, and I was astonished. This book made me feel a lot of emotions, and it really resonated with me in a way that I didn't think it would, because I can't really relate to a lot of this author's experiences. It is part memoir, but you know, it does talk about a lot of really important issues, and as a woman, you know, there are some things in here that would just really hit home to me. And yeah, I was really impressed by this, and I was surprised that I ended up loving it more than I thought I would, because it was just, yeah, it just really knocked me for 6. Next question is a book you pushed the most people to read, and they did. I don't know if anyone has read this book, but I know that I have recommended it to them quite a lot, and that is The Poppy War. I've mentioned it a few times on my channel already, and I'm going to say it now. Read it if you haven't, because it is so good. I know I have told my cousin to read this. He actually gifted me a copy of this, and I told him, you need to read it. So I've got him a copy. Hopefully he will read it soon, because I'm dying to talk about it with him. I've talked about this book with a few friends as well, and tried to encourage them to read it. I don't know if they have or not, or whether they will, but I know that I have recommended this book a lot in the past few months since I read it. Question 5 is best series you started in 2021, or best sequel, or best series ender. I don't read a lot of series, but in 2021 I did start a few series that I am planning to continue. So again, the Poppy War series, I started that. First book was amazing. I've got the next 2 books, and I'm really excited to get into those. So that is one of my priorities this year, is to finish that series. And then also the Grishaverse trilogy, so Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. I loved all 3 of those books. It's not the best series I've ever read, But I really, really enjoyed those books as a whole. I thought it was a really interesting and really fun story. Favorite new author you discovered in 2021? So again, R.F. Kuang, really, really like her writing. I love her storytelling. I just love her attention to detail as a whole and her imaginative ideas and things like that. Just really, really like her writing. And then also Catriona Ward, who wrote The Last House on Needless Street, was really, really impressed by that book, so I would like to read some more things by her because I really, really liked her writing. And then also Blake Crouch, who wrote Dark Matter, really impressed by his writing. Question 7, best book from a genre you don't typically read or was out of your comfort zone. So again, Split Tooth, as I mentioned, it's not something I would normally pick up, but it was just staggeringly beautiful and shocking and just gorgeous. Question 8, most action-packed / thrilling / unputdownable book of the year, and that is Dark Matter. This was a wild sci-fi thriller with so many twists and turns, and I had no clue what was going on, and I thought I had solved it. I thought I knew how it was going to end, what was going to happen, what the big reveal would be, and I was wrong. And I was very pleasantly surprised by this. And this is just a really, really fast-paced and exciting book. And yeah, I couldn't put it down. I was hooked from page 1. Question 9, a book you read in 2021 that you would be most likely to reread next year, so in 2022. Again, Split Tooth, I do want to get another reread of this in, just because I'm trying to read some of my favourite books from last year again and see if they're still my favourites, and I really want to get this one in. And then also The Comfort Book by Matt Haig. So this is definitely a book that I know I will pick up again at some point this year and maybe next year, maybe the year after that, because it just kind of has a little bit of something in it that I know I'm going to need at some point. It is definitely what the book says it is. It is definitely a comfort book. It's just a really nice and comforting little read and something easy. If I want to read but I don't want to think too hard, this will be the book for that. Favourite cover of a book you read in 2021. So I've got 2 here. The Gilded Ones. This is an absolutely stunning book cover. I say it every time I bring this book up. I love the colour green, and I just love the illustration of the girl, and I just love how glowing her skin is and how feisty she looks and how regal she looks. And this is just, this is how a book cover should be done. It's just really, really captivating, and I love it so much. And then also Beneath the Sugar Sky. These have got everything that I love in a book cover. We've got blue, we've got purple, we've got pink. It's magical, I just really like this as well. Anything with these colours on, it's automatically one of my favourite covers. Most memorable character of 2021. So Juliet from These Violent Delights. She is one of my favourite female characters that I have read so far in the past year. She was very feisty, and she was incredibly likeable, but she also had some vulnerable moments, and she was just very, very relatable. I felt she was really fleshed out, and I just love her. I love her personality. I love her way of thinking. There's just something about her that I really, really liked. And then also, quick mention to Tyrion from Game of Thrones. I absolutely love him as a character. He always has the best lines, the most witty comebacks, and yeah, I couldn't not mention him in this video. Question 12 is most beautifully written book in 2021. We're gonna do it. Where is it? This one here, Split Tooth. Beautiful. And then also Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. Now this wasn't one of my particular favourites. I only gave it 3 stars. It did have some issues, but there were some moments of just pure beautiful prose that I just really, really liked. And I do think Echo Brown has a lot of potential to be a really fantastic writer. I know she has a new book coming out very soon that I'm very excited to read. Did like how this one was written sometimes. It just did have some really nice moments, some nice sentences and phrases. Question 13, most thought-provoking or life-changing book of 2021. 100 Great Black Britons stands out to me as one of the most thought-provoking books I've read. This is a non-fiction book, and the reason why is because I just learned a lot about so many different people in this book, people that I hadn't even heard of. And this book talks a lot about 100 Black British citizens who have contributed to this country in some way, whether it be through sport or entertainment or politics or healthcare or charity. You know, there's just a wide variety of people from all different backgrounds, walks of life that we don't really get talked about as much. We don't really know a lot about. And so this was very interesting because I did learn about a lot of names who I've never even heard of, and what they accomplished and how that's kind of changed the country. And yeah, it was very, very interesting, and I do want to read this again, and I recommend it to everyone who's interested in British history and important figures, because, you know, this book it's just really insightful and really eye-opening, and I can't stop thinking about it. The next question is a book you can't believe you waited until 2021 to finally read. That is The Exorcist. I read this in October and I really, really liked this. Everyone knows The Exorcist, but if you don't, this is about a child who is being possessed by a demon, supposedly, and there's this priest that is asked to come and perform an exorcism on this child. And this book is just extremely messed up, and there's so many gross moments in it, but it was also very intense. I loved the whole aspect of religion in it, questioning religion, and you know, this priest being conflicted by what he believes in and what's happening and all of that. And it was just really, really fun to read. And I've been wanting to read it for quite some time, but I just kind of kept putting myself off because I heard that it was really, really scary. I've not seen the movie, but I don't know, I just had this kind of feeling that it wouldn't live up to my expectations, but boy, it did. I can't believe I waited as long as I did to read it. I'm so pleased that I did. It was just so much fun. So the shortest and longest book I read in 2021. So the shortest book that I read is Sour Candy. This is a horror short story. It was only like 84 pages or something. And then the longest book that I read last year is A Game of Thrones. This is, what is it, like 800 pages? 700, something like that, 780 pages. It is a chunky boy. Question 16, a book that shocked you the most. The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. The twist in this was just amazing. I did not see it coming. I really, really love this thriller. Go and read it, because I want to tell you what the twist is, but it will just spoil the whole book. So just go and read it. But it really, really shocked me. I was not expecting it. So favourite book you read in 2021 from an author you've previously read from. So Midnight Library by Matt Haig. A few of his books are in my favourites list. And this was no exception. Really enjoyed that one. And then also Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This is a 5-star book. His previous book that I had read, Lock Every Door, was a 4-star. I read that in 2020. and really enjoyed it. This one is like a haunted house thriller, and yeah, the twist in this, again, wasn't expecting it, really liked it. So question 18, best 2021 debut you read. There were a few that I thought about, but this one, Girl A by Abigail Dean, is a book that just came to me straight away because I really, really liked this thriller. It's not a typical kind of thriller. It's written very differently to the thrillers I normally read. This one, I wouldn't say there's a lot of like twists and turns, and it's not very plot heavy. It's more character driven, and we're delving into the characters' pasts and things. It's kind of like a very intense character study, but I really, really enjoyed it for some reason. It really, really worked, and again, was really, really impressed by her writing, and the atmosphere that she just created in this book was just wonderful. It suited the theme really well, so I'm very excited to see what she puts out next. Question 19, a book that put a smile on your face / was the most fun to read. Hani and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiva Jaigadar. I love this book so much. It's a very strong contender for my favourite book of the year as well, because I absolutely devoured this. This is a young adult romance book between two girls, and I just, I really, really enjoyed everything about this book. I love the romance, I love the characters, I love the things that the book talked about, like religion and difference in cultures and sexuality, and how that is affected by their religion and vice versa. And, you know, it was just so much fun. Honestly, I just felt so warm and fuzzy on the inside when I was reading this, and I want to read it again. Book that made you cry or nearly cry in 2021. Here it is again, The Poppy War. This book did actually make me cry at one point. There are some very harrowing, shocking scenes in this book. One in particular that just made me sob. And I don't really cry at books that much. I'm very desensitized to things. I don't know what that says about me, but generally I'm pretty good at keeping my emotions in check. But this one, oh my gosh, it had me, which is why it is one of my favorite books, because if a book can make me cry, in a good way obviously, then it's a bloody good book. 21, most unique book you read in 2021. So again, we've got Split Tooth. That was a pretty unique read. Also, These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a Chinese historical fiction, Romeo and Juliet retelling / fantasy. It just had a lot of different things going on in it, and it felt very refreshing. I really, really enjoyed that. And then also Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. So the format of this book was mainly what made it unique. It wasn't the best story in the world, but I just loved how the book had been put together. It was like an IKEA catalogue, and you're flicking through and you've got like little like product pictures of the things that they sell in the shop, and yeah, I really, really liked that. And the last question is a book that made you the most mad. It doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't like it, but in this case it does. The Silence by Don DeLillo. This was my first 1-star book of the year, and I just feel so catfished by this book because it had a very interesting concept, and I was so excited for it, and I'd heard so many great things about Don DeLillo and his writing, and nothing happened in this book. And I was mainly pissed off because I felt like I'd wasted an afternoon on this when I could have been reading something much more enjoyable. I hated it. It made me very angry. I will talk about this book in more detail in a future video, but for now, we're gonna leave it there. Alright guys, so that is my 2021 reading year summed up as quickly as I could manage. Like I said, I will be doing some individual videos over the next few weeks of my favourite books, of DNFs, of the worst books and things like that. So subscribe so you can watch all of those. Let me know in the comments down below any of your answers to these questions, what your favourite book of last year was, what your worst book of last year was, how many books you read, all of that. I always love to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I really appreciate it. Please leave a cheeky thumbs up if you like this video. Hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos from me in the future. Follow me on my social medias. My links are down below. And I will see you all in my next video very soon. Bye, guys.